Are you ready? Stand by.
Welcome to the 3GS Show, episode 74. I am your host, Dave Hartman. My guest this week is 3Gunner and YouTube sensation, Bullet McQueen, aka Mac Binding. This episode is brought to you by MGM Targets. Have you ever been to a match and thought to yourself, wow, I really need to practice on those skinny knockdowns, or long range practice sure would be easier if I had a couple steel targets with hit indicators? Well, you can get the same quality steel targets that you see in major matches at MGM Targets. My favorite target lately has been the standard shape auto poppers. Those little things are challenging for pistol, shotgun, or rifle, and because they automatically reset, you can run more drills and drills with positional work without bothering to break for reset. Step up your practice or outfit your range and use the code DHMGM10 to save 10% on your purchase. MGM Targets is putting up some great prizes to give away to you over the next few months. May's giveaway is for a Steel Challenge half IPSC target set. All target plates are laser cut from 3/8-inch hardened AR500 steel. For details and how to enter, go to 3gunshow.com/MGM. In this episode, Mac and I discuss his journey into the sport of 3-gun, his passion for helping others navigate their way through the sport, and how to build a successful YouTube channel. If my audio sounds a little bit different than usual in this interview, it's because I was using one of my headset mics as we were recording video as well for Mac's new interview series on his YouTube channel. I was fortunate enough to be Mac's first guest, and we recorded a completely different interview that you can check out on his YouTube channel, which I'll link up in the show notes at 3gunshow.com/episode 74, or you can just tap the album art on your smartphone and it will take you right there. And now please join me in welcoming the show, Bullet McQueen, also known as Mac Binding. Mac, welcome to the 3-Gun Show.
Thanks, Dave. Man, I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Dude, I have too. You know, this is kind of cool, man, to have you on the podcast here. You and I talked like months ago, and we kind of did like a dry run of like a Google Hangout. And then to fill in the audience, we just got done doing a Google Hangout / YouTube recording where you were interviewing me on your show, which is kind of cool. You're doing a series of interviews. And that was a lot of fun. It kind of ran long. We thought we'd do 30 minutes, and we ended up doing like an hour and 30 minutes. So now you're in the hot seat, man. How do you feel?
It's a little bit intimidating. I mean, I've listened to basically every episode. I can almost remember every episode, to be honest. And now that I'm the person on the hot seat, it's a little intimidating.
Dude, that's exactly how I felt like 10 minutes ago, man. So so this is kind of cool. So Mac, I've been watching your videos for a long time. Ever since it's probably been like 2 years ago, I think, that I met. No, is it 3 years? Like 2.5. Then I met Lou Graves at the Pikes Peak Shotgun Challenge, and he told me like, hey, you know what? I've got this company. It's called Strong Sight Tactical. I've got this guy that does a lot of review videos for me, and you should check him out. He's got this really funky accent, and I'm not kidding. He said that. He's got this really funky accent, but people love him. And I've been watching your videos ever since, man. It's been pretty cool, and you do a lot of 3-gun stuff. We're going to dive into that thoroughly. So before we get there, why don't you give the audience an idea of who you are off the range?
Yeah, so I'm pretty focused on my family right now. I'm married. I got 2 young kids, and they take up the majority of my time other than work. I've had several other hobbies in the past, but they pretty much got replaced by 3-gun about, 3-4 years ago now. And I was doing serious about 3-gun. I just decided that I wanted to dedicate myself to becoming the premier 3-gun channel on YouTube, where pretty much anybody could go to learn whatever they needed about the sport to get into it. And that's been my primary focus for like the past 3 years.
Dude, I love that. And your how-to videos are like really cool. They're really thorough, but they're not like over the top technical. They're definitely like kitchen table, everyman type of doing stuff. And that's like the style that I like, is I can relate to you doing those specific tasks yourself. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Shit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's my whole approach. I mean, I grew up on a farm in South Georgia, and basically, where whatever tool you needed was out in the shed somewhere. It might take you an hour to find it, but that's my approach to making videos. And I'll get comments saying, "Oh, you should have done this with a so and so socket wrench," or "You did that the wrong way." I did it the way I could do it with the tools I had, and I got it done, and the gun shoots. So. You could send it to Taryn Butler and pay $1,200, or you can watch my crappy YouTube video and do it for cheaper.
Well, that's actually what I like about it, because I can relate to it. So, you're a car guy. I know this because we've spoken previously. I'm a car guy as well, and I used to do a lot of drag racing. And one of my pals and I always had the phrase "good enough." When we'd be like, "Well, is that right? Or is that how it's supposed to be?" And we just go, "Good enough."
Yeah, well, and that'll pass, maybe when you're first starting out in the sport. But I don't know. You get to the point where you need your guns to run 100% of the time. So there is something to be said for putting parts in the right way, and making sure the guns function and they're reliable and they're accurate. And I try to stress that as well, to make sure if you don't know what you're doing, don't take a Dremel to your Benelli.
Yeah, that's probably like the last shotgun you want to take a Dremel to.
Yeah, I had to wait long enough to get mine that I wanted to make sure I did it right the first time.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Mac, you've got a love for shooting, and it seems like we came about like kind of the same way of through drag racing and through cars, but you like took a little detour into rock and roll as well. But where did this love of shooting and competing come from?
I lost you there. Go back and say that again.
Oh, that's okay. Where did your love of shooting and your love of competing come from?
So I'm pretty much like every other guy. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I was really fortunate and blessed that I grew up in a family that liked to hunt a lot. And me and my daddy pretty much started out dove shooting or dove hunting and deer hunting. I don't know. When I was so young, I can barely remember. And then I started shooting competitive sporting clays when I was in 7th grade. And I did that from 7th grade to 12th grade. Our 4-H club in the county that I grew up in had a competitive sporting clays team. And so I was on that for like, I guess, 6 years? And that's where I got started competitive shooting, was shooting sporting clays. So I pride myself on being a shotgunner first and foremost, and that's probably why I enjoy shooting the shotgun more than anything else. Then I kind of got out of shooting for a while, and like you said, I started playing rock and roll music and drag racing a little bit. And I was just basically feeding my adrenaline side right there. And then I got old enough that I had a family, and it wasn't cool staying out all night playing rock and roll music anymore. So I got back into shooting again. So that's where I sit now.
That's a little tamer than staying out all night and shooting or playing rock and roll. Is that right?
Well, you at least get to sleep, in the right hours of the day instead of staying out all night.
Well, so sporting clays, knowing that aspect of the game seems like a pretty big advantage into a lot of these more elaborate major matches that we're seeing. Do you still shoot sporting clays?
Yeah, I will sometimes when I go back home to the farm. If anybody's seen any of my YouTube videos, you know that my little primitive shooting range that I film a lot of my videos on is what I call the farm. That's basically where I grew up. And if I'm at home and me and my daddy are bored or something, we'll go out in the backyard and shoot some sporting clays. But yeah, the perspective I had when I started 3-gun was that the shotgun part was like so easy because the targets didn't move. And I'm like, why are these guys having so much trouble with these clays that are sitting on these little pegs? I was like, they're just sitting there, I mean, they don't even throw them, But then I realized there's more to the shotgun game than just shooting the targets. There's this whole like reloading thing that you have to practice.
Yeah. Well, the good thing though is that if you don't miss, then you have to do a lot less reloading.
Yes, and that is the approach that I take. I'm a big proponent of going 1-for-1 on the shotgun. So I usually take my gears down a notch to make sure I hit them all.
So, shot competitive sporting clays. That was when you were a youngster. Took a little bit of time off for some other adrenaline type stuff, and now you're back, and you're deciding you're wanting to go into three gun. Now, did it start with three gun, or did you, get back into it through USPSA? Did you shoot some clay sports first, or?
No. Actually, it came from getting a handgun for concealed carry for self-defense.
Okay.
We were when we were living in Augusta, Georgia at the time. The neighborhood that we lived in had something pretty bad happen across the street, and it sort of freaked me and my family out. And we thought, we really need to be able to defend ourselves if somebody were to come in our house and do the same thing to us. So I went through the proper steps to be able to get my license and got myself a Glock handgun. And I'd never really been a handgun person. In fact, I don't know if I'd ever shot a handgun before that.
Oh.
And I recognize the need to train with it, obviously, if you're going to try to defend yourself with it. And I had shotguns and deer rifles and that sort of thing, but I didn't even know what three gun was probably at that point. And it was peer pressure, basically. One of the guys I worked with had built a couple of AR-15 rifles, and we were talking about it at work. And he pretty much put the bug in my ear to build a rifle. And after doing that, he took me to the range for a match, and it was downhill ever since.
Well, that's cool. So that was the first match a three-gun match then?
It was a two-gun match, actually. The range there in Augusta at the time didn't have organized three-gun, but they did have a rifle pistol match every 3 months or so. So I built a Rock River Arms AR-15, and I had a Glock 23. That was the pistol that I got for self-defense. And first match I ever shot was a two-gun match.
And what was that like? Was it like love at first sight, or was it like, this is all right, but I don't know?
It was all right, but the light bulb really went on when I took the shotgun.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just sort of, it woke up that part of me, I guess, that, from being younger and shooting competitive shotgun. To me, it just completely changed the game. I love shooting the shotgun. I know it intimidates some people.
Yeah.
But you put an all shotgun stage in front of me, and I'm jumping up and down.
I am too. I love shooting shotgun. It's funny. I think that was probably my weakest gun when I started, and I just absolutely love shooting it. But it's funny that you mentioned that two-gun match, but then it turned on for you with a shotgun. Usually it's completely opposite. A lot of guys seem to want to avoid three-gun, and I've heard a lot of people say that if we played two-gun, then we would have a much bigger following than we do. The third gun, the shotgun, actually keeps a lot of people out, especially pistol shooters, because they're intimidated by it.
Yeah, I don't. That don't, for me, that just doesn't register. I mean, I don't know. It's probably one of the reasons why I never really got into USPSA or IDPA. The lack of the long guns really makes it not that interesting for me. And maybe that's the opposite approach from where the other guys are coming from, is that USPSA is pretty straightforward. It's one gun. And once you learn the system, you're pretty set to go. With three gun, you never know what you're going to get. I mean, every match is different. You got to know different rule sets, and like the episode you had, I think last week with Pete Rinsing, where he was talking about setting up different matches for different, like the Surefire match versus whatever other match over here. That's three gun. You never know. You just got to be prepared for anything. Some guys are intimidated by that.
Yeah, each match has their own definite flavor and definitely signature to it. And Pete really put a really fine point on that in episode 71. So yeah, that was really interesting to hear him talk about it, because it's definitely something I felt quite a bit. And in doing this podcast, it seems like it definitely has a flavor regionally as well. You're on the East Coast. I'm in what I would consider the West Coast of America, but I'm in Colorado. But the three gun out here is it seems like a lot different than the three gun that you guys shoot on the East Coast.
It is definitely. You guys do a lot of natural terrain stuff. seemed like there's a little bit more of bay style hoser stages down my way, which is a good thing. But usually a good match director will throw in a long range stage just to separate the men from the boys.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's a lot of pistol shooting in Florida. Is that something that you've dipped a toe into, or is that something that you're looking into trying out? Is doing like an all pistol match?
Man, I shot one USPSA match about 3 years ago, and it wasn't for me, man. It's a good 3-gun practice. That's my philosophy. I don't know. I'm probably offending a lot of people saying that, but to be penalized just for shooting my 3-gun pistol because it's a 9mm,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's bad juju.
Well, yeah, I'm not a big fan of power factor scoring either, and I think it's ridiculous. Like, you can take a Glock 34 and a Glock 35. There's 1 round, 2 round difference between a limited gun, and then all of a sudden, like, the points are scored different. Like, and especially when you're talking about, when people load their own ammunition to major power factor. It's like, is it that big of a difference to where it's worth that many more points? I feel like if they got rid of major power factor in USPSA, the 40 caliber cartridge would die that day and be done. Take that.
Oh yeah.
Controversial.
Oh, yeah, totally. I did a video a while back talking about my not top 5 guns that I've ever owned, and the one that I put in there was the Glock 23 because it was a 40 caliber, and I basically said the statement in the video that 40 caliber is worthless unless you shoot USPSA.
That's so true. I actually just recently got rid of a Glock 23 myself. I've had it for like 3 years or something like that. I've shot it twice, and I even had like some friends major loads for USPSA, and I just didn't like it. Just didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so the okay, so we got your first match out of the way, and it was pretty fun, but once we got that second match in where we had 3-gun with an actual shotgun, that's where it took hold. So was it there you're like, you know what? I've got this YouTube channel I've been throwing drag racing videos on for years now. I'm going to start doing 3-gun YouTube videos, or where did that portion of it come about?
I think it was a couple of different things. So I did a couple of gun review videos, I guess about the same time. The first one was actually a review of that Glock 23 handgun. And I was actually very surprised after a while that the number of views sort of took off. So I thought, well, maybe there's something to this. It's kind of fun, talking to the camera. So I reviewed a Smith & Wesson M&P 1522 rifle that I got for Christmas one year. And I just kind of had decided, yeah, I'll just do some gun reviews, or maybe I'll, do an installation of a Glock trigger or something. Because that was how I learned how to do stuff at the time. It was, if I bought a part for a gun, I basically was looking for a YouTube video to show me how to do it. And actually, I guess it was a fortuitous sort of occurrence, but I met Lou Graves from Strongside Tactical through the AR15.com equipment exchange. I was looking for a compensator for my 3-gun rifle, basically. And I ended up buying one from his company, and somehow he got wind, or maybe I even, reached out to him and said, hey, I got a YouTube channel, would it be okay if I reviewed or showed how to install this compensator on a rifle or something? And to be honest, he took a chance, but he's like, yeah, sure, do it. And that was the start of a partnership now that's lasted for like 5 years, to where it revolutionized what I was doing with my YouTube channel. He's, been extremely helpful to me and giving me pointers on things that I could do better. And also, together we started the YouTube channel for his business, and that's where I've posted reviews on all the products that he sells.
Yeah, it's cool. For a long time I was looking only at the Bullet McQueen, which is your YouTube channel. And I was looking at that and watching your videos there, and I don't remember where it was, but somewhere like along the lines of, YouTube suggesting that next video, I realized that I'm on a different channel now, and it was Strong Sight Tactical. I was like, oh, no way. So, and then I dug into it deeper, and it's like, yeah, you've got a ton of reviews on the Strong Sight Tactical YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, pretty much the videos are the same style and same flavor, but they'll just have a different intro. I mean, it'll have the logo
Mm-hmm.
for the business at the beginning instead of, what I typically put on something I do. And then at the very end, you'll have links to go wherever you need to go.
Yeah, and that's probably why I hardly even notice, is because it does have that definite feel of like a video that you've done yourself.
Yeah, and that I mean, I can't stress enough like how helpful doing that with him has been to help me grow my YouTube channel. And I mean, as far as channels go, my channel's still pretty small. I mean, I've always tried to be the best 3-gun channel. Probably the biggest one be Jerry Mitchell. Like I think he's got like close to 1 million subscribers or something.
Jeez.
But I try to be the everyday guy, the everyman's 3-gunner who helps people get into the sport. And I like teaching people how to do things to their guns so that they don't have to send it down to the gunsmith every time they want to change out the trigger spring in their Glock or something.
Right. Right. Yeah. And then it definitely shows in like a lot of the stuff you do too. It's definitely like accessible modifications that you can do on your kitchen table, or even if you should be using something else, you show them how to do it on the kitchen table, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I try to use what I've got, in the garage, as long as I keep in the back of my mind that I'm not about to screw up my gun.
Yeah. And speaking of screwing up your gun, you've taken a Dremel to a couple Benelli M2s that when I see you start, like I just kind of cringe a little bit, but it always seems to turn out pretty well.
Yeah, well, there's a lot that goes on that's not put into the final version of the video. I mean, there's a lot left on the cutting room floor. And there's probably a few words that need to be bleeped out or something, Well, just since you said that, so I shot a JM Pro before I bought my Benelli, and I had taken the hand files and the Dremel to that shotgun probably at least 4 different times. So then I get my Benelli, and before I ever even shoot it or take it to a match or anything, I'm out there with the hand files and the Dremel, hogging out the loading port, and I was finished. I had sanded it down. I'd polished it. It was beautiful. And something in the back of my mind said, I'd take just a little bit more off the front. And what did I do? But the Dremel got away from me and left this big old gash right on the top of the loading port. And it's not as nice looking anymore. I should have just left well enough alone.
Yeah, figures. There's always that maybe one more that'll get you in the end.
Yeah, well, so the way I'll do them, is I'll take a little bit off and then I'll put the shotgun back together and I'll quad load, right? Because you want to make sure and you want to see if it's good enough or whatever. So I went back and I was like, if I could just take a little more off, I could get that second set of shells in there a little bit quicker, and it happens.
So how long does that process take you then? Like, are we talking like a half a day?
Well, you mean to take a brand new shotgun and to get it
just to perform the work?
Oh, I could probably do it in 2 hours.
Oh, really?
And that's taken my time. Well, I've done about probably 6 now. I mean, I'm not a shop or anything. I'm a guy in his garage. But where I lived previously, I did a couple for friends. Just said, hey, come here, let me help you hog out your shotgun. And basically what it turned into was me doing it for them. It's no big deal. You get a YouTube video out of it. Everybody wins. But I've done like 5 or 6 now, so I could do it in a couple hours.
And then, so if you're putting like a video together, how long does that take you to edit?
When I first started doing this, I mean, I've had some videos. Well, first off, let's preface it by saying that, an optimal YouTube video is about 5 to 10 minutes. That's about how long you can hold somebody's attention span. So if I'm recording maybe 60 to 90 minutes of footage and I'm going to cut it down to 10 minutes, I'm probably going to spend 4 or 5 hours on the computer, cutting it down, putting audio with it, getting the voice right, that sort of stuff.
How do you decide what you keep and what you take out? It's, for me, like when I've done like a little bit of editing with the podcast here from stuff that we did at SHOT Show, and for me it all seems precious. Like, how do you let go of some of that video that you spent all that time taking?
Ultimately, for me, it always comes down to the total length of the video. I'll start and I'll leave in everything that I like or everything I want. I'll take out all the dead spots, try to get out as many of the ums and the coughs and the sneezes and stuff out. And that'll leave me what's a pretty much a finished video. But if it's just too long, I'll have to start hacking stuff up.
If we didn't have ums and coughs and sneezes on the podcast here, it would be pretty short.
You would be amazed, though. I mean, how much dead space you have when you're kind of, given a stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
You may talk for 30 minutes, and when you get rid of all the dead air, you're left with like an 8-minute video.
Yeah, I would be probably embarrassed to have like my talk cut down on some of these podcasts. It's interesting though, the different mediums, like and how they do or don't translate to each other. Like with the podcast here, we're kind of like long format, and I get the feeling that people like the long format, and that's kind of the feedback I've gotten. And if I'm wrong and you're listening, Dave at 3gunshow.com, let me know. And but it doesn't seem like you can put like 90 minutes of a conversation between two characters like you and I out there on YouTube and have it be like a successful video. It seems like you were mentioning earlier, there has to be like a lot of editing that goes along with that.
It's very much a hit or miss thing, and YouTube's a funny business because once you're established, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Because I try to do things in a very concise manner. I try to make sure everything looks good and sounds good. That's my number one priority. The YouTube channels that I've sort of taken my direction from predicated themselves on really, really fantastic audio and video quality. But then again, you've got people with, million subscribers like Hickok45 who has no intro, has no effects, has no music. It's just him standing in front of a camera shooting guns.
Mm-hmm.
And people love that. And he, frequently has 30 to 45-minute videos. I would never do a video that long because nobody would watch me for 30 minutes. But it works for him. So you just have to find what people like. You have to figure out what your angle is and what your personality is and what your community likes.
So did you know all that like going in when you started doing the reviews and the 3-gun videos and stuff, or is this something that you've kind of grown and blossomed into once you sort of caught hold and got some traction with your channel?
Oh no, it's totally trial and error and taking the advice of others. When I first started out, I mean, my videos were much, much longer, all the dead space, very little editing. Number one, I didn't have the software or the knowledge. Lou actually helped me out a lot with that. When we would do a video for Strongside Tactical, we'd talk through the format of the video. We'd come up with talking points and, a kind of a quick itinerary for the video. I would produce the video and then send it to him for him to review it. And he'd, say, hey, take this out or edit this or say something different here. And he was a big proponent of saying, hey, you need to shoot for 5 minutes, 5-minute videos. That's what we need. And the more research I started to do with, what kind of things people are searching for, what kind of things people are watching the entire length of the video for versus just clicking out. It's really true. 5 to 10 minutes. That's pretty much how much you're going to keep somebody on YouTube. So it only took me a couple years to learn all that the hard way. But, now I've gotten it down to a process that works for me, and I'm continually trying to improve and make things better. But, I have a great time doing it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it.
So what's like the one video that you haven't made yet that you want to make?
To be honest with you, this is a trick question because I actually just made it. And then actually there's another video that I really was excited about making that I'm not going to be able to make. I actually just made a video. I won't completely spill the beans on it, but I'd been wanting to do a video completely non-3-gun related about sort of like a battle rifle. I'm a huge proponent of Second Amendment and gun rights and us being able to do the things we love like 3-gun. because it's a constitutional right. And so part of that is things like battle rifles. And so I've got a couple I'm fortunate enough to have, and I've never really featured anything like that on my channel other than my Mark 18. I do have a Mark 18 short barrel rifle that's probably one of my favorite rifles that I own, and I got a few videos with that. But I've been wanting to do something on a battle rifle, and how do you set up an essential rifle that could save your life if you need it to. So I actually just shot the footage for that last weekend. It's in the editing process right now, and I hope to have it out in the next few weeks.
Very cool. Now, do you edit like in big blocks, or do you edit like short periods of time, like in the evening when you get a chance, or?
I usually will do pretty much everything. Like maybe let's say I'll do 80 or 90% of the entire video in one setting, maybe in the evening or at night. And then I'll just kind of leave it and think about it and watch it a few times and think about, what I could do differently, and then go back and just kind of throw in the last little bit of bells and whistles at the end and then upload it. And then even after I upload it, I usually batch upload. I don't know if you do this on the podcast, but one of the tricks of YouTube is that you upload as many videos as you can and then roll them out in a scheduled fashion. So you do one podcast a week.
Right.
And on YouTube, if you really want to keep people engaged with your channel, you got to at least do one video a week. Some people will try to do one video a day, but I just cannot do that.
So much work.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it wears on you after a while. I know you know that.
Oh, man. Yeah.
But I'll batch upload about 4 or 5 videos because I'll try to do recording in one big lump sum, like on a weekend day, and then I'll just roll them out every Tuesday.
So we talked about like the video that you wanted to make for a long time, and you just were able to do it. What's the one that you are not going to be able to make?
So I had a 2013 F-150. And, I used to drag race, and I have a few videos on my channel of the F-150 that I used to drag race that I had a supercharger on. And I had planned on doing this pretty cool video on how to do some simple power upgrades for your F-150. And I'd planned on doing that, but I actually traded that truck, so I don't have it anymore.
So do you have like a new truck now that you're going to do the videos on then?
Nah, we're going to have to stay with gun videos.
All right. So once you got into to 3Gun and started doing these videos, you were fortunate enough to shoot at Atlanta 3Gun. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I was living in Augusta for the past for a period of about 10 years, and Atlanta 3Gun started up. Now I think this is the 3rd year. And during their inaugural year and then part of last year, when I still lived enough in the vicinity of Atlanta to travel there, I tried to shoot as many monthly matches there as I could. And I shot the championship the first year, and unfortunately didn't make it to the championship last year, but I plan on going back this year.
Well, and they've had some high performers that have run those matches over the years. We talked in the interview that we just got done with about squatting with high performers. So what would you say is the best squad that you had, and what did you take away from squatting with those people?
Gosh. So this is a 2-part question.
Yeah.
First off, one of the best things you can ever do to grow as a 3-gun competitor and get better is to have a friend or a peer or a co-shooter that you frequently talk with and shoot with and even sometimes practice with, who will push you. And I have one of those that was the friend that got me into 3-gun, and we would go to those matches and we would always squad together. And he's a better 3-gun shooter than I am, so he pushes me because I'm constantly trying to catch up with him. He's good enough that he can hang with guys like Rob Romero and those guys that run Atlanta 3-gun. So when we would go over there, he would naturally want to squad with him, so he would drag me along with him. And I'll be honest, at first I was a little intimidated, but those guys are so nice. I mean, there's absolutely nothing to be intimidated by shooting on a super squad. And as you know, everybody in 3-gun is just they're such nice guys anyway. They're very receptive to people who want to learn and people that are new to the sport.
Yeah.
And they'll take anybody on their squad. I mean, for the most part, what I've noticed is a lot of the really good shooters like that usually try to split themselves up between the squads so that they are reaching the maximum amount of new shooters.
Yes.
To sort of spread the wealth around, I guess is a good way of putting it.
Yes, for sure. They do that at my local match too. What do you think it is about 3-gun or 3-gunner specifically that makes them like so accessible, so willing to help, like such nice and genuine people?
Well, for one thing, I think it takes a certain kind of person to be addicted to this sport. And we're all pretty similar. We're adrenaline junkies, and we're proponents of shooting guns and having a good time doing it. And not only that, being around people that are like-minded to you results in you having a good time. And I've always been really receptive. It's actually the approach of my YouTube channel to see new people and to help them improve and to get them more addicted to the sport like I am. Mm-hmm. And I think that we pretty much all share that.
Yeah, for sure. And, that's like the point of the 3-gun show too, is to connect, the minds of, great shooters or people at a higher level with, the minds of the listener, and whether they're at like a beginner stage, they haven't shot their first match or whatever, there's something in every talk that someone can take away from it, So that's one thing that I've really connected with about your channel and you specifically when we've talked, is that you really like doing the keeping that information accessible for the newer shooters, and I really admire that.
Yeah, well, it's important. I mean, sort of the fate of our sport rests on what happens related to firearms and politics at this point in our country. And the more people that we introduce to the sport, the more people we have on our side. And we owe it to all of ourselves that participate in 3-gun to fight for our sport. And so that's just another thing. It's completely separate from actually going out and shooting matches, but it's what matters when you're at home.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's not really another sport out there other than practical shooting where you can point at it and say that, that sport is frequently under attack and that sport is a constitutional right. It's very unique in that manner.
We were talking about earlier, about the media perception of firearms in general, right? And our sport in particular is even more in the crosshairs because we shoot AR-15 rifles. I mean, without the AR-15 rifle, there is no 3-gun. I mean, nobody shoots an AK in competitive 3-gun really at a high level. And that's going to be lumped in with AR-15s anyway. But, baseball doesn't have to worry about this. Every baseball game is televised. Every football game in the NFL and college football is televised. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get 3-gun televised when you get kicked off of stations because of things that happen in the media.
Yeah, for sure, and especially things that are not even related to your sport.
Right. Yeah, but what you just said kind of hits home. I never really thought about it in that way. I mean, we don't have a right to play football, or we don't have a right to play golf, but we were born with a right to own an AR-15 rifle and to go and shoot 3-gun, and that's a pretty unique way of thinking about it.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned AR-15 rifles. And I'm going to kind of switch it up a little bit here and start talking about your gear. I know that you've built a new rifle for this year because I watched you do it on YouTube. But your AR-15 does not look like the traditional scary black rifle. It's much more benign and a little bit blingy this year, Mac. So
it's sexy.
It is. So first of all, if someone's interested, they can check it out on your YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, so that's one of my pet projects. I don't know, I must have probably 5 different build projects for rifles that I've done by now. I've documented them all on my YouTube channel, and this most recent one was a 3-part project that I just simply called the 3-gun project. It's probably the best quality produced series that I've done to date. I'm really proud of it, if you can't tell. And part of that is the absolutely beautiful rifle that Clayton at Strongside Tactical helped me build. I sort of fell victim the past couple of years to changing equipment too much, and I learned from it. And so this year I've kept my pistol and shotgun completely the same. And other than building this new rifle, I haven't changed any other equipment.
So so we're an audio podcast. It's hard to imagine, but describe the rifle, and of course we'll direct people to the YouTube channel so they can check it out. But describe the rifle and give us an idea of what are some of the major components that you ended up using for the rifle.
Yeah. So first, I think you first need to understand the approach that I was going with this build. I wanted something different.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted something that was high quality and I guess could be classified as sort of a boutique type build. And when I say boutique build, I'm talking about like Noveske quality or better. So it obviously was going to center around the Stretch 16 barrel. It's a barrel that I worked with Lou Graves at Stretch Precision to bring to market. He did the legwork. I just helped out with the gas system. And then Clayton from Strongside Tactical was wanting to start working with Wilson Combat on their forged upper and lower receivers. And I wanted to do a different color than black this year. I actually originally planned on making this rifle gray. I was going to call it like Project Direwolf. It was actually the name that I'd come up with for it because I'm a Game of Thrones fan. I don't know if anybody else watches that.
I totally missed that one.
Yeah. So that was a Game of Thrones reference.
Gotcha.
But actually, Clayton had a better color. He's actually got a custom color called Urban Bronze. It's only available through Strongside Tactical, and he Cerakoted the upper and lower receiver for me. And it was the most beautiful rifle I'd ever seen. When he sent me pictures of the receivers, I was like, forget gray. That's what I want.
Nice.
Yeah, so a Melanite Stretch 16, which has an intermediate length gas system. It's the softest shooting 16-inch rifle that you'll ever shoot, and that's exactly why it was designed that way. With Wilson Combat forged upper and lower receivers, and I actually wanted to use an AR Gold trigger this year, so I put that one in on my own.
And what type of forehand did you end up using on that?
The same Noveske NSR that I've had for like 5 years and put on 4 different rifles.
Oh, no kidding.
I've tried every free float forehand you can imagine, and I always come back to the NSR. I don't know what it is about it, but it's key mod. I don't use a lot of attachments, but if I did, they would be key mod. Just something about it feels right to my hand.
So key mod versus M-Lock. I'm glad you brought that up. What you mentioned you like key mod. Why?
Because the rail covers that I have are key mod. I don't have any M-Lock attachments,
nice.
So that would mean I would have to buy more stuff.
Yeah, it's
no, honestly, on a 3-gun rifle, you really don't need a lot of attachments on the forend. I don't run backup sights.
Right.
I simply use rail covers where my support hand goes to index it so that I know where to put my hand when I grab the rifle. I don't use it for anything in particular as an advantage. I just use it to know where to put my hand.
Gotcha.
Because if you have an inconsistent placement of your hand, it can certainly affect how flat the rifle shoots when you shoot offhand.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's something I've definitely noticed myself. Now the key mod, in my opinion, I think it looks better. I understand like M-Lock is like less expensive to manufacture. I just kind of like the little keyhole looking thing. I think it looks cool, but other than that, I don't have like a ton of experience with either of them. But I actually have a free float tube with both of them, and I think the key mod's more aesthetically pleasing in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean they both do their jobs very well.
Yeah.
It seems like I've always used key mod rails, and so pretty much all the rifles I have except my Mark 18 have key mod rails now. I'm a huge proponent of free floating rails.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on that tangent.
Well, no,
you know a little bit about that. I know we've talked about it before.
Yeah. Like I've had massive problems with with non-free floated barrels, and you know, massive problems where you're spending money on like a match and everything, and then you get there and then you can't hit anything just because you're shooting supported, and you can't figure out why, and it's because you're pushing that barrel. So yeah, it's definitely like absolutely imperative in the sport of three gun, because we shoot braced all the time. We shoot, in wacky positions all the time. So yeah, free float is absolutely a must.
Yeah. So the other thing about the rifle that's different this year is I was having some concerns in my mind about my optic last year. I had a really bad time with the long range rifle at Fort Benning 3-gun back in December. And so I was looking to change up optics. And what I ended up doing this year was a Vortex Razor. And ironically, you hear some people complain about the color of the Razor. It's like this kind of bronzy color. It happens to match my rifle perfectly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bother me one bit. It's a beautiful scope on a beautiful rifle.
Yeah, so it looks great on your rifle, and you're the one guy. So apparently they made it only for you, because
Yeah.
it does
So
look goofy.
I want to know when my check's going to be in the mail, because
it
I
does
made
look,
it work.
It does look goofy on absolutely every other rifle.
I guess you could probably Cerakote it, but that would be too much trouble. Why you want to Cerakote a $1,300 scope?
Yeah, exactly. So then, we talked about your new rifle for the year. Again, I urge people to check out the YouTube channel, because the build on that was a lot of fun. The build series. Now you shoot.
Let me just mention one more
Yeah.
thing too. The other thing about this rifle, and I completely forgot to mention a minute ago, was when you put that Vortex Razor scope on top, that's a 2-pound scope. So it made the total weight of the rifle go up quite a bit.
By 2
so
pounds.
one of the ways that I cut down some of the weight on the rifle was by using a lot of the V7 lightweight parts, and I got those from Clayton as well. And you would actually be very shocked with the difference in weight between these V7 parts and like a standard lower parts kit.
Oh, no kidding.
I put them on the scale as part of some of the videos that I was doing for him. I was actually weighing these parts on a bathroom scale, and pretty much every part was at least half as heavy as the regular steel counterpart. So I was able to use a heavier scope, but keep the weight of the rifle actually lighter than the one I used last year.
No kidding. So what is V7? Is that like titanium components or something?
It's a little mix of everything. Some of them are titanium. That's obviously lighter than steel. There's some aluminum, and even one or two of the parts have melanite finishes. So overall, just really high quality stuff.
Huh. Interesting. I'm not familiar with them. I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, Clayton carries pretty much a full line. Obviously, everything that you see in the build series on my YouTube channel came from Strongside Tactical. So you can get all those parts there. And they actually make free float 4-ends now, too, that look pretty sick as well.
Oh, cool. I didn't know he was doing that.
Yeah. They're V7, I mean.
Oh, V7. Okay.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll have to check that out. So then, so moving on, your shotgun, you shoot a Benelli M2, modified a bunch of them for friends. We were talking earlier about your preference for, and I think this was either in our pre-show 1, pre-show 2, or in the last interview we did.
A few of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've been here for a few hours tonight, but you were mentioning that you actually prefer to have like an 8-round tube on your Benelli M2.
Yeah, when I was shooting sport and clays growing up, I shot an over and under shotgun.
Oh, okay.
And I got very used to the way that particular shotgun would swing. So shooting flying clays is the most important thing, is how you swing the shotgun. You want it to be very smooth. You want to swing it to the target and break the shot at just the right time. In 3-gun, that's not quite as important, but when I have my Benelli set up with the 8-round tube on it, it swings like the over and under that I've shot my entire life. And to me, it feels very natural. It's obviously a little bit lighter, and it's just, to me, set up perfectly. But if you're going to shoot TAC Ops, an 8-round tube is just not going to work. You got to run a 12-round tube. That's
Right.
what everybody else is doing. And if you want to keep up with everybody else, you need to leave the 8-round tube at home. So I'm resigned to running a 12-round tube on my Benelli M2, even though it's, not my personal preference.
Yeah, when you start talking about like the arms race that is three gun, if you get yourself like a quad load down on capacity on your shotgun, you are at a serious disadvantage.
Oh yeah. So I mean, that's a hard lesson that I learned actually from Jesse Tischhauser. When I was still learning a little bit about quad loading and learning how to game stages and get advantages, um, he was the one I think that either had posted some videos or I might have even sent him a message on some of the forums or something. He's one of the most accessible guys that you'll ever meet in the three gun world.
Yeah.
He'll answer anything that you ask him, and he really taught me how important it was sometimes to, when you grab the shotgun, be able to load 4 shells right there when you pick it up. And if you go back and watch, I did a series of videos from this last major match I shot, Area 6 in Florida. Probably half the stages there, when I grabbed the shotgun, I was loading right as soon as I grabbed the shotgun. And you can't do that with 8-round tube. So
right.
The 12-round tube it's going to save you so much time.
Yeah, it's a necessity. There's not even a question anymore.
Yeah, I mean, nobody hardly runs a. I think maybe was it John McClain
John
maybe
McClain, 10
at
round.
the Three Gun Nation shoot off that you did the podcast from. I think ran like a shorter tube, and he had to basically shoot the first however many targets and then load during the middle of the run, which a lot of people were doing. But
yeah, and he was at a disadvantage for that too. So
well, he still did pretty well.
he still did pretty well. I mean, imagine if he had that ability to pick up and do that quad load right away. I mean, who knows where it would have went.
The great thing about three gun is there's more than one way to do everything.
That's very true. That is very true.
That's one of the things that I sort of stress a lot on my channel too, is play into your strengths, because everybody's going to usually shoot a stage differently. It's not IDPA where everybody shoots it in the same order, the same amount of shots, and reloads in the same place.
Right.
In three gun, there's option targets where you could shoot with any gun sometimes. So I'm a big proponent of playing to your strengths, and for me that happens to be the shotgun. So shotgun loads are just one weapon in my arsenal.
So how do you think your approach to, like, say you're going to a major match, how do you think your approach to that match has changed from when you were a newbie going to your first match to where you are now when you're planning your next match?
Oh, it's all mental. So I mean, when everybody knows when you first start out in three gun, there's so much to think about. You honestly can't worry about it all, and you don't know enough about the sport to even know what a stage plan is. I mean, I'd been shooting three gun for over a year before I knew you were supposed to plan a stage. I had no idea what a walkthrough was. I was like, why are these guys walking around air gunning everywhere?
Yep.
They should be over here loading their Glock magazines. Well, dummy, you should have already done that. So then, I'm just, first thing I'm saying is I don't want a DQ, right? That's what every newbie says is their first priority. I don't want a DQ. Second thing is, trying to have a good time, and that should be everybody's priority, having fun, and, getting better. You get to the point where I am now, where I'm kind of a, middle of the road kind of three gunner. I think I shot about 75% at Area 6 of the winter, which, is pretty good for me. My approach now is trying to gain whatever advantage I can, but at the same time shoot a solid stage on every stage. I fell into the trap a couple years ago trying to go too fast and would crash and burn on some stages, and I'd be the guy who had smoked a couple stages, but then crashed and burned on 3 stages. My approach more lately has been just be solid, take it about 85, 90%, try to gain whatever advantage you can and play to your strengths. If you're going to be better off shooting those targets with shotgun, I'm going to shoot them with shotgun. Even if the other 9 guys in the squad shoot them with pistol, I'm going to do what works for me.
Yeah, that's great advice. And, shooting the game to your pace, I think, is very important too. Small example, when I first started, I thought it was about like running and gunning, right? And so I would end up with like, you're talking about like a full wide open metric target, and I'd have a miss on it. And it's like two anywhere, and I'm completely missing the thing because I was like running by it, literally running by it, and I was just shooting way beyond my ability. And I think for me, what helped me shoot to my pace was being encouraged to shoot USPSA production, to where you have to hit like A zones and you only have 10 rounds, and I think that helped me balance that a little bit. But I found that like immediately after I started doing that, it kind of tipped me in the other direction to where I was going a lot. I was going much slower on stages, and over like the last few months, that's something I've been working on myself is in getting that speed back up.
Yeah, well, the biggest light bulb for me anyway went on when I realized shoot slow, move fast, because that's where you gain most of your time. The first lesson I learned about this actually was from Daniel Horner. There's not a lot of video on the internet of Daniel Horner shooting. I don't know if that's on purpose or what, but a couple years ago, I found a video on YouTube of him shooting. You remember when 3Gun Nation first came out with the classifiers?
Yes.
And they had posted videos of these pros like Rob Romero and Daniel. I think Patrick Kelly was on there too, shooting these classifiers. And the one that I think it's called like times 12, where it's like 6 steel shotgun targets, and then you run over here to a second box and you shoot 6 more. I downloaded that video of Daniel shooting it, and I must have watched it thousands of times, slowed down, just watching his movement. Not even watching him shooting, but watching him move, because there was so much to be gained. He had shot like 2 of the shotgun targets while he was running out of the box with just barely like his tiptoes still in the box. Like his whole entire body was out of the box except for the part that was touching the ground. And I was like, well, how huge is that he's already running to the next box while most people would just be there planted, standing, shooting these targets. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to gain on a stage, is doing little things like, and I try to tell people this too, like face your first target. When you go up to a stage and get ready to start, if that's the first target I'm going to shoot, go ahead and face it. Get your gun up, get ready, put your head where it needs to be. And so when the buzzer's off, you're not having to like move and stuff. Mm-hmm. That's a second that you just gained by doing that. Leaving the shooting box as you're taking the last target, without getting a penalty or anything, but moving in the direction that you're going, trying to just gain the movement score. Shoot at the same speed, shoot slow, get your hits, but do everything else fast.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And there are always, small things that you can do to gain like that extra little bit. Like you said, starting facing the first target that you're going to engage. I found that recently with a friend of mine that went out and shot his first match. He's a former Marine, and and I didn't bother telling him this in his first match because it's he was concentrating on getting the fundamentals down of like how we conduct ourselves at the match and everything. So as long as he was shooting safe and everything, I didn't bother him. But port arms means something completely different to a Marine than it does to a 3-gunner. So this is a audio podcast, but I'll do it for you. Like he's standing at attention like this when most of us are down like this. So
right.
If you can imagine what a for listeners, if you can imagine what a Marine looks like when he's port arms versus what a 3-gunner looks like port arms, is completely different. And like Max said, facing that target is a huge thing, especially when you're port arms. You're not straight down range and then turn to engage. So there's a lot of little spaces to make up that time.
Yeah, I mean, the important thing to remember, and this was actually talked about on one of your other podcasts, I think it was Andy Peterson, who was very scientific in the way, he breaks down a match. You're simply playing a game that relates to time. And it's just like any other sport in the Olympics or wherever, where the guy with the lowest time wins. Anything you can do on a stage to save time gives you a leg up. So I'm always mentally going through walkthrough after walkthrough after walkthrough, trying to find places where I can shave off a second here and there that doesn't have anything to do with shooting necessarily.
What have you found in your personal game that you've worked to save the most time on?
Shooting on the move, without a doubt. I actually had a pretty good debate with my shooting buddy about this about 2 years ago, because I was very much one of those guys who would post up, shoot these rifle targets here, run up to the next position next to the barricade and shoot these targets over here. And we shot a match or whatever. And at the end of it, I've always videoed every match that I shoot in. That's really how I got big into this YouTube thing, was videoing myself shooting to get better. And he shows me his video at the end of the match, and he's like, I was really trying to shoot on the move in this match, and not stop and post up. And when I put them side by side, he was way faster. I mean, because he's already at the end of the stage, taking the last few targets while I'm still back here posted up somewhere. And so it's taken me some time to sort of really realize the impact of that. But shooting on the move is just such a big advantage. If you take your time and you take your shot slow, but keep moving down the stage, it's a huge advantage. And I've really tried to work on that in the past year.
So do you incorporate that into like your practice then? Is there like any certain drill that you recommend?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you practice shotgun reloads?
Not nearly as much as I should, but yes, I do.
Okay, you quad load or twin load, or how do you reload?
Quad load. I'm switching to quad load this year.
All right. When you quad load practice, do you stand still or do you move?
So I learned this one from Matt Kupika. I move. I'm trying to increase the speed in which I move, because Matt was telling me that he he picks a point and then he runs as fast as he can while quad loading. So
yeah. So you cheated. It's only because you did a podcast with him that you changed that, right? Because the point I'm getting to is, when do you ever stop in a 3-gun match? If you stop, you've messed up.
Yes.
Right? So why practice doing something standing still if you're not going to do, or you shouldn't do it in a match? Mm-hmm. Right? So when I quad load practice, I do it while I'm walking around my house. I try to never stand still when I'm doing it, because if something comes up in a match where I need to stand at a table and reload, anybody can do that. It's easy to mentally say stand right here, but I'm going to practice the way I want to do it in a match, which means that I'm going to be walking across the floor while I'm practicing quad loading.
That's a very good point. And one thing that I've tried myself is classic USPSA is like dry fire is like the draw, right? That's like the very first thing that you do. So when you translate that to 3-gun, you're talking like, start positions for rifle and shotgun, which is, the very basic ones would be port arms and then low ready, right? So what I started doing was exactly what you're talking about, standing still, port arms up on that target, port arms up on that target, port arms up on that target. And then I realized, like, I rarely do that in a match, unless there's like a long shot or a slug to take at the very start of that stage. You're moving, right? So now what I'll do is have a a target, and then port arms up on the target and moving out of whatever imaginary box I've created for myself.
Yeah. It's something that, you definitely owe it to yourself to try and practice at home, shooting on the move. You don't want to necessarily go out to a match and try to do something that's out of your comfort zone.
Right.
But, taking your rifle and shooting at a spot on the wall, or practicing, dry firing at a spot on the wall while you're heel to toe walking across the floor. That's something I try to do, because I'm going to be usually trying to take most of those rifle targets on the move if I can.
So how much dry fire would you say that you do in a given week?
Very little.
Yeah.
Very little. I really should do more. One of my co-shooters on the Strong Side Tactical Stretch Precision Shooting Team, Matt Young, actually knows a lot about dry fire shooting, and he's made a few videos that have helped me out a lot. But I like to tinker with my guns. I spend a lot of time, committed to making YouTube videos, because I feel like that's my contribution to the sport. I probably don't have the time to commit to really be, like a national shooter. But I can, hopefully impact a lot of people doing these videos.
Well, we thank you for that personal sacrifice, because I'd rather watch your your videos than you dry fire and me not have any entertainment. So thank you.
Well, they're a lot of fun, and I hope that they're fun to watch. I try to have a good sense of humor. Like I made a blooper video this week because I was filming a video this past weekend. I think we actually talked about it already, and I accidentally shot the front windshield out of my parents' golf cart. So,
Yes.
yeah, so I mean, I try to make stuff that's enjoyable to watch, and it's edited really nicely, and people like to come back every Tuesday and watch my new video.
Very nice. So, Mac, what do you think is the best piece of advice that you've received in the sport of three gun?
Um, that's a trick question.
It is.
The best advice ever, is Keith Garcia's advice that champions are made in practice at home. Because that's true. The work you put in practice will absolutely impact, what you get out of the sport performance wise. But sort of the best advice that I try to keep near and dear to my heart is just to live in your comfort zone. It sort of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Shoot a match the way you feel comfortable. Shoot to your strengths. If you're a pistol guy, shoot it as a pistol match. If you're a shotgun guy, shoot it as a shotgun match. You're going to perform better if you're comfortable. If you're trying to do things that are out of your comfort zone, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Mac, what matches can we expect to see you at this year?
So I've been pretty busy apart from three gun. I think we talked about it earlier, but I actually recently moved from Georgia to Florida. So I'm still in the process of moving. So that's taken a lot of my time right now. I was fortunate to go down and shoot Area 6 back earlier this month in Orlando. I'm definitely shooting Atlanta Three Gun Championship in Covington again this year. I think they've moved the match. It might be in September this year. And then I'm also going back to Fort Benning again in December. I wouldn't miss that match for anything. And I'm trying to find some local three gun down here. There's a Gator three gun match monthly in Gainesville, Florida, which is a couple hours from here that I might try to hit every now and then. And there's Dothan Gun Club, which is, I think, maybe hour and a half from where I'm living now. And as far as here locally, I need to find a local club and encourage them to start some three gun.
Yeah, and find a club that'll let you do those practice sessions that you need to moving, shooting and moving and having steel targets.
I've already planned out that conversation. When I go to join a club, I'm going to say, okay, look, as long as I can, have a bay to film some YouTube videos, that would be great. Otherwise, this is not going to work out.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing because that is like truly a necessity of the thing, but I think you and I are kind of similar. It's like you kind of feel weird saying like, you know what, I got this YouTube channel. I'm kind of a big deal. You need to give me a bay and allow me to do these things outside of your rules. Otherwise, I'm not going to shoot here. So,
well, no, I don't want to be outside anybody's rules, but I think it's a mutually beneficial agreement. The club gets a little notoriety, and I get some YouTube videos, and everybody wins.
Yeah, for sure. I think in this type of industry, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I find like a lot of people that want to send out like a paper newsletter and don't really see the benefit of like a YouTube channel. So how do you explain that sort of value to them?
Well, I think about it this way. Number one, I'm fortunate that I sort of went all in with YouTube because it's exploded now.
Yeah.
But what's the one thing that everybody has in their house? A TV, right?
Yep.
Now everybody has a smartphone with apps on it. Everybody has a laptop. People are constantly watching and consuming video. So I was fortunate enough that when I started producing content related to three gun, that I was in a video format. So it's been, pretty good deal for me. And the positive of that is that everybody watches video. It's easy for people to get engaged in. And with technology the way it is now, you can talk to people, text or comment and have conversations with them just immediately. I pride myself on replying to every comment that somebody leaves on any of my videos. And I think it pays off because you develop a community around your videos of people that you ultimately become friends with in real life.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and that's it's kind of sort of how we met. It wasn't on the YouTube, but we
On
connected
Instagram.
connected on Instagram. Yeah, and so your account on Instagram is also Bullet McQueen. Is that right?
Well, it's Bullet McQueen 3 gun.
There we go.
Some other random dude took my name. So
Bastard.
I've had the Bullet McQueen, which just to explain that it's an obvious reference to my favorite movie of all time, Bullet.
Yes.
And now that I'm a shooter, it's kind of a sick play on words that the word bullet is spelled a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But when I signed up for Instagram, I've had the Bullet McQueen YouTube account since 2006, and I've used the username for various things since like 1999 or something. And when I started Instagram, it was taken already, so I had to tag a 3 gun on the end of it, and it's actually the exact same thing for my Facebook page. It's Bullet McQueen 3 gun tagged on to the end of the URL.
Sweet. And for our younger listeners, Bullet is Bullitt, and McQueen, of course, is McQueen.
Yeah,
So,
it's a big misconception that I'm a chick because
'cause
people
the
who
Queen?
aren't familiar with the movie Bullet or Steve McQueen think that because there's the word Queen in my name that I'm a female. But once they watch one of my videos, hopefully I pretty much put that myth to rest.
you must get some interesting messages on Instagram then.
Well, there's a lot of trolls out there. I'll just say that. You probably know about that by now as well.
I've been very fortunate, and I've had a little bit of flack and feedback here and there. Most of it good natured, but after talking to you, I feel like I haven't gotten anything. So
Well, I mean, I delete a few messages. I try to keep it, pretty G-rated on my channel, so it's family friendly. I like for juniors to watch my videos because they're one of the big group of people that I have a push towards getting into 3 gun. So I try to get rid of people who post things that don't need to be on my channel and that sort of thing.
yeah, that's definitely a good philosophy. Well, Mac, we're going to be glued to your YouTube channel, and I have just a couple of questions here to wrap up. Can you tell me about your craziest match story?
Okay. Well, I got one crazy one and one just kind of good one. Okay.
Right.
The craziest one, ironically, has to do with Daniel Horner, and he has no idea that this even probably happened. But the first major match that I ever shot in 3 gun was the Southeast 3 gun Championship, which was like 3 years ago now. And it was supposed to be sort of the reiteration of the Fort Benning 3 gun because that went away for a few years. But it wasn't done at Fort Benning that year. It was done at a range a little further south in Georgia. And Daniel Horner was match director. So it's my first 3 gun major match. I'm nervous as crap. I go to my first stage and I shoot 3 shots with my Glock 34 and I get a squib and basically tanked an entire stage because my gun broke. So that pretty much destroyed my nerves. So I go to the second stage and it's the long range rifle stage and it's on the top of 2 containers, like, shipping containers.
Yeah.
It's like 3 stories up in the air and we're shooting these like 400-yard steel targets. And my mind is just going 100 miles an hour where there were 2 different shooting positions and you had to shoot these 4 targets from this one side of this board and then you had to move to the other side of the board and shoot the other 4. I shot them all from the first place and never even thought to move to the other side. But I hit them all. And I'm thinking, man, I just hit a 400-yard steel target. I was like pumped. So I get done and the RO for the stage says stop. And my heart sank, right? Because anytime you hear the word stop,
Right.
you think, God, I just DQ'd myself. What the heck did I just do? So he explains to me that, I just shot the last 4 targets from the wrong position. And he didn't really know what to do because nobody else had done that. I was the only idiot that did it. Right? So he has to call Daniel on the walkie-talkie and ask him, what kind of score to give me because he didn't know what to do. And so they go back and forth for a minute. And I hear clear as day, Daniel comes back on the walkie-talkie and says, Tell him he should have done it the right way. Then the R is like, but he hit all the targets, and tell him he should have done it the right way. So that pretty much destroyed my confidence. I had all intentions of going up and introducing myself to Daniel because, I really respect him a lot. And after that, I just couldn't do it.
That's funny. He probably tells the story. He's like, man, I feel really bad. Bullet McQueen was at my match, and I had to tell him he screwed up.
Nah, he has no idea that even happened, I'm sure. But the coolest thing that's ever happened to me at a match was actually at the Fort Benning match this past December. It was close enough to my house in Georgia that I could drive to the match. So I didn't have to get a hotel or anything. So I get up really early Saturday morning, and I get to the range at dark because I need to walk the stages. I didn't get to go the day before. I had to work. And I go to my first stage, and I'm just walking it, doing walkthroughs, and it's still dark outside. And I get done with a walkthrough, and I turn around, and I'm going back to the beginning to start again, and there's Jerry Michalak standing at the beginning of the stage. And I've never met him before. So I'm like, holy crap, that's Jerry Michalak. I'm going to go introduce myself because there's like no chance that he knows who I am. So I go up, and I shake his hand and introduce myself and say, it's really awesome to meet you. I love watching you shoot. And the first words out of his mouth, other than, nice to meet you, is, so what you got going on this stage? How you going to shoot it? And I'm like, seriously?
Holy
Jerry
cow.
Michalak just asked me how to shoot a stage. That was pretty surreal, but it was actually kind of funny. And he's probably the nicest person you'll ever meet, and the world's best shooter. So it was a really awesome experience, and one that I called my daddy immediately, like before I even shot the stage, and told him, holy crap, I just met Jerry Mitchell. He talked to me.
So what'd you tell him on how you're going to shoot it?
Oh, dude, I laid it out for him, and he, I guess, agreed with me. I don't know. And then they called the shooters meeting, and we walked about 300 yards back to the shooters meeting and talked the whole time. And he was telling me how he's like, some crazy RO DQ'd me from an IDPA match last week, and he was like raising Cain about it. It was actually really funny.
Everyone deals with the same stuff, just regular people. So Mac, where do you see the sport of three-gun headed?
So you ask a lot of people that. Everybody usually has a pretty optimistic view of it, and I do too. I think we're at a tipping point with three-gun. I think it's dependent on a couple things. One is the media side of three-gun. I think we all owe it to ourselves to do everything we can to portray our sport in a positive light. And, my small portion of that video-wise on YouTube, I do everything I can. I think your podcast has done absolutely wonderful things for the sport of three-gun and its perception. And, getting it on live TV more. I think the live streams of the pro matches have been great. I hope they continue to improve because I know tons of people watch those. It seems like all the pros watch them because everybody's commenting on the website as we're watching the matches. And, you're getting it on TV more. The Three Gun Nation show is great, but I really wish there was more. And then the second thing is just being active politically and letting people know that we're good people and we, follow the law and we have fun doing this and we deserve the right to do it.
Mac, that's that's definitely a good message, man, and definitely very important for the future of the sport. So you might have wanted to save that one because my last question I ask everyone is if you could leave the audience with one thought or one piece of advice, what would it be?
It's, be cognizant of the impression that you leave on people. You want to encourage people to come back and do this again and again. And that's the sole approach of my YouTube channel is to get more people into three-gun. And even if you're a seasoned competitor that's, done it for twice as long as I have, you never know who's watching at a match. You don't want to leave a negative impression. Everybody gets frustrated at times, but every little thing that you do is seen by somebody. And what you want is a junior or, a new female shooter or that's there with their spouse or something. You want to get them into the sport. So always leave a positive impression, encourage people to come out and join us.
I love it, Mac. That's a great way to end the show. Mac, this has been a lot of fun. This is like our third, fourth hour together or something like that. We've had a lot of fun this evening doing interviews for your show, doing interviews for the Three Gun Show podcast, and chatting in between. And this has been a lot of fun, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show, and thank you.
Hey, I really appreciate everything you're doing. I know you're bound for great things, and you've already, for a year now, been doing great things. So I wish you the best. I'm truly thankful for everybody that's helped me along in the sport. Lewis Graves and Strongside Tactical and Stretch Precision, and this year Lucas Oil Outdoor Line, who's helping me as well. It's truly partnerships, and those are people that have affected my life in a big way. So I'm thankful for everybody.
Right on. Well, thank you, Mac.
Yep. Thanks, Dave.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Mac Vining, a.k.a. Bullet McQueen. This interview and the one I did for Mac's YouTube channel were a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed hearing his philosophy on teaching through his YouTube channel and how he thinks about the sport. Again, selected links, including the link to my interview on Mac's channel, can be found at 3gunshow.com/episode 74. And don't forget to sign up for the May giveaway of the MGM Targets Steel Challenge half IPSC target set. Check it out at 3gunshow.com/MGM. And when you make a purchase at MGM Targets, you can save 10% using the code DHMGM10. You can also support the 3 Gun Show podcast by using our affiliate link when you shop at Brownells. Just go to 3gunshow.com/Brownells and shop like normal. If you like this show, please tell a friend, subscribe in iTunes, and leave a review. Thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show. I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll catch you in the next episode.
If you are finished, unload, show clear.